This is the TST Ebike M614, and this is a truly impressive e-bike for the price point. This is one of those, what I call a cheap Amazon e-bike. This is falling in the price range of like $500 to $550. That's including shipping. If you're paying any more than that for it, you're probably not going to be getting a very good deal. But at that price point, it's a really impressive bike. There were some corners cut to keep the price down, but if you can deal with the corners that were actually cut to keep the price down on this bike, I think a lot of people are going to be really happy with what you get for the money in this bike. Okay, we're going to do a speedometer test here to see if everything is accurate with the speedometer and see if we can test that. So far it looks pretty good. This is GPS here. So from everything that I've seen so far, the speedometer seems to be accurate with GPS, though there may be a little bit of a delay with GPS here and there, but for the most part, I think we can say that the speedometer is accurate. TST Bikes has an app, and you can go through and control the settings of the bike on the app. This screen here, this control screen, doesn't have a lot of settings in that, so you have to connect it to the app to be able to control the settings for the bike. But one thing that I'm not keen on in the app is everything's set in kilometers, and I'm American, so I want to change the mileage settings, but I want to go to mile. When I hit confirm, it doesn't do anything, so I am stuck in reading under kilometers there. The other thing that you can do with this bike is you can set it in class 2 or class 3 from the app. I've had it set to class 2 this entire time. I'm going to change it over to class 3, and it's giving us a disclaimer to agree to. And after that, we should have a higher speed unlock. So we'll see what happens, but I guess, you know, we'll take it from there. Okay, so I've got the bike set in class 3 mode, 7th gear, pedal assist level 5. I took the bike home last night, recharged it to 100% battery, and we're going to see how fast we can get the bike up to in class 3 level here. So here we go. And one thing about this bike, in about half a crank, the pedal assist kicks in. That's really good. A lot of bikes that I've tested, it can take like 3, 4, sometimes even more cranks for the pedal assist to kick in. So this one does a great job and really kicks in pretty quickly. But already we're up to 20 miles per hour. 22. 23. 24. I did not expect that. 24. 25. 26 on the bike speedometer. Looks like we've capped out at 26 miles per hour. That's pretty impressive for a bike of this price range. And we're going to do a brake test now. So here we go. Brakes are adequate. They're good enough to stop this bike on this kind of riding. I wouldn't trust them on a downhill mountain biking trail, but for this they're fine. And as a matter of fact, I wouldn't take this bike on a downhill mountain bike ride, period. But we'll get into that later. Okay, so that was pretty impressive. 26 miles per hour out of a bike at this price point. You can color me shocked. I've never seen a bike at this price point that could come anywhere near going that fast. 550 bucks, 26 miles per hour. That's pretty good in my book. Now, the price that you're going to pay for this bike at this point in time is pretty much always going to be $550. Now, you might see it for like $269 or $250 or whatever. The rest of the cost is going to be shipping. That's going to bring that up to 550 bucks. You might see it for 550, free shipping, but basically whatever they're marking the price down by, say, you know, 250, 260, whatever, that offset is always going to come in the shipping price. It's a tactic that these cheaper e-bike vendors use. Just be aware of that. Okay, so we have established that this is the cheapest to fastest ratio in a e-bike that I've ever seen. With that being said, they had to do some things to keep the cost down, and I think it's to be expected. They did put some kind of cheap parts on this bike to bring that cost to that point. And for example, you know, we've got the handlebar grips here. They're really thin. They're not very comfortable, but handlebar grips are easy and cheap to change out, so not a big deal there. The brake levers feel fine. The brakes do an adequate job of stopping this bike. That is, if you're riding it on a like a paved trail or a light duty trail like this. I would not take this bike mountain biking. Which brings me to some of the odd marketing decisions that they made on this bike, and some of the weird design decisions that went into this bike. Like, for example, they put like commuter style fenders on this bike, but giant knobby mountain bike tires. And these knobbies give a lot of rolling resistance, and I think had they gone with a more roads friendly tire on this, it would have been a lot better bike. Now, I'm not saying go with a super skinny road tire, but more of like a hybrid style tire on this bike. It would have been a lot more pedal friendly. It'd be a lot more battery friendly. Now, with all of those complaints out of the way, should you buy this bike? Well, I can't make that decision for you. I can only give you all of the pros and cons and let you make that decision for yourself. I will tell you this, most bikes, after I'm done reviewing them, I either give them to a family member or a friend. I'm actually going to keep this one because I want to make the modifications myself to turn this from a pretty good bike into a really good bike. And the first thing I'm going to do is, you know, do little things like swap out the handlebar grips and put road tires on this bike. And after that, this is going to be, I think, a really great bike to own. I love that I have the option to go up to 26 miles per hour when I want to, but I can pull it down into a lower pedal assist and conserve the battery when I need to. So to me, even though this bike has a long list of minor cons, it's got a short list of really major pros going for it, if that makes any sense. Okay, so I'm going to do a walk around of the bike now, and we'll see everything that it has to offer, the build quality, and check everything out that it has. So first off, like I said, it's got these big knobby mountain bike tires, and I'm not a fan of them. I'm going to change them out, but you know, some people might love them. We also have 160 mechanical brakes front and rear. We also have the world's dinkiest headlight. This thing is not going to do anything for anybody, but you know, that's what it looks like when it's on. We've got our bouncy forks. They're pretty comfortable, but in addition to these big bouncy tires, whenever you hit bumps and dips in the road, it's comfortable, but it's also really, really bouncy. There's no adjustment to these forks, and you can't lock them out. Up top here, I've already talked about some of this stuff. The cheap handlebar grips, easily replaceable. The screen here, again, I'm not a fan of this one. I would prefer something more simple and less app-driven, but it's fine. It is what it is. We've got decent brake levers. We've got a trigger shifter over here. It's fine. Down here in our frame, the battery sits in here and it loads in from the bottom. I do like that. Here's the key release for the battery, and I forgot to bring the keys like a dummy, so you're just going to have to take my word on the battery. But it is a 36 volt, 10 amp hour battery. I wish it were more like a 13 or higher, but it is what it is. When you unlock the battery, there's also this release mechanism here that you got to twist that to get the battery all the way out. That's a safety precaution to make sure that the battery doesn't fall out on you. Down here we've got plastic pedals. I will probably change those out. And the seat is made of I don't know what kind of material this is. It feels almost like a silicone, but different than any other silicone I've ever felt. It's got plenty of padding, and it's really comfortable, and I like the shape of it. As you can see, I've got the seat up pretty high. I'm 5'10" with a 30-inch inseam, and the bike is comfortable to me, but it does feel like the frame is a little on the small side. I love this tube aluminum rack. I think it looks nice. It fits the bike great. Stuff goes on it easily. I am not a fan of these plastic fenders. The front fender was very difficult to get on the bike. As a matter of fact, I just left it off. I could not get it right. I think it got damaged and warped in shipping. Okay, so the biggest problem that I've run into with this bike is that these plastic fenders are warped. They must have got bent in shipping, or it's been really hot here, so maybe they warped in the heat in a warehouse somewhere. I don't know, but I have tried my best to get these things to line up, and the back one is fine. It's good to go. This front fender is really out of whack, and they're plastic, they're kind of flimsy, and the wheel rubs, so I'm just not going to put this on the bike. I've messed with this for hours now, and it just won't line up properly. So I'm done with this, and I'm moving on. So that's the reason that the front fender is not on the bike. But as you can see here, it's very flimsy plastic. I put a backpack on the rack here, and I didn't realize that it was pushing down a little on the fender, and the tire burnt through the fender in like less than 10 seconds. By the time that I could hear what was going on, the damage was already done. The rack here does say max 25 kg, so you can put a pretty good amount of weight on here. I think that's right around 52 pounds. Down here, this is the reason that I keep saying that I would not take this bike mountain biking. Now, on trails like this and on the road, this is going to be just fine, but for mountain biking, as you can see, these tubes come back and then they flatten out and they go into a really thin weld here, both up here and down here, and you can maybe see it on the other side there. But like I said, this is going to be fine for pavement riding and light duty trail riding like this, but on a mountain bike trail where you're going to have a lot of harsh drops, I think that this frame is going to either bend or break on a really rough riding trail like that. Moving on, we got our 160 disc brake back here. It's a mechanical brake. I am not familiar with the brand here, but it looks like it's decently well built. And over here on the other side, we can see that the bike has 7 gears in the back. It's index shifter. It's got a Sunrun derailleur. I'm not familiar with that brand. The bike does have a derailleur guard. I just forgot to put it on. It was on my list of stuff to do, but I left the house without the derailleur guard and without my brain today, so pardon me for that. Big sprocket up front. I do like that. So we do have some features that I really do like about this bike. For example, the cables run into the frame. I think the frame looks fantastic. Now, there are some marks here where there was a comedically large label on here that I had to peel off, and it's been a lot of trouble cleaning this stuff off, but it will eventually come off. I just wanted to get to the bike review, and I cleaned and cleaned and cleaned as best I could, but you can see that the stuff is eventually going to come off. It's just going to take a lot of time and elbow grease to get it off of there. But I do think the bike looks great. I love the lines of the bike. I think it looks amazing. I do like this quality of build on the frame, except for those spots in the back where I said I wouldn't take it mountain biking, but for any other kind of riding, I think it's going to be just fine. The battery in this bike is a 36 volt 10 amp hour battery. That's a bit on the small side, so if you do get into running this bike in class 3 mode and you're running it at top speed, just keep in mind you're not going to go very far with this battery. I mean, if you got a short commute, probably not a big deal, but I would expect that, you know, with that kind of power being consumed, you might get maybe 10, 15 miles at the most out of this battery. And with a battery that small, the 60-pound frame of this bike and the really heavy tires and the knobby tread on these tires, it really doesn't help on the range. So I personally will probably never run this bike in class 3 mode, but it is nice to have that option there. If I do run it in class 3, I'll probably just run it in like pedal assist level 3 or 4, just to keep it from putting too much drain on the battery, and then keep level 5 for when I really need to kick it into high gear and really need that extra boost of speed, maybe for traffic or whatever. but running the bike in Class 3 and in pedal assist level 5 at top speed, I cannot stress enough, it really drains the battery quickly. Okay, so I just did a battery range test, pedal assist 5, mostly flat ground. I weigh 200 pounds, and I'm going to switch over to the trip odometer right now. It's at 17, but I did shut the bike off at the 6 mile mark, so we got to add 6 miles to that. So roughly 23 miles out of this battery riding in pedal assist 5. I did help pedal most of the time, and that got us, like I said, 23 miles on one charge, but this is in Class 2 mode. So if you ride it in Class 3 mode, it's definitely going to drain that battery a lot faster. Alright, so I rode back the last 2 miles in pedal assist 3, 19 miles total. Just keep in mind that I did stop at the 6 mile mark and shut the bike off, which reset the trip meter, so we got to add 6 miles to that. So 25 miles, but the last 2 miles were pedal assist 3. The battery is flashing at me. Most of this ride was at 20 miles per hour in pedal assist 5. Again, that's Class 2, so battery, not too bad actually. But keep in mind, if you ride this bike in Class 3 mode at top speed at that 26 miles per hour, it is definitely going to drain that battery really, really fast. My best guess is that if you ride this in Class 3 mode at top speed the entire time, you're going to get maybe 12 to 15 miles out of this bike. Okay, so my final thoughts on the TST Ebike M614. Well, the price is right. I think the price is right where it needs to be. That being said, it's got a lot of room for improvement, but I think that those improvements can be done on a fairly tight budget. And despite its long list of very minor cons, in my opinion, it does have some really strong major pros in its favor. Like I said, I usually give the e-bikes that I've finished reviewing away to members of my family and friends, but this one I think I'm going to hang on to it just because I think there's a lot of potential here for a fun project bike, and this is going to be a great bike to have as a second bike. That is after I make the modifications that I want to make to it. And I do like to tinker, and I think that this bike has a lot of potential for some great tinkering projects. So with that being said, that's all I've got for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.